Turns out, the best family lawyer I ever had wore a cowboy hat and drove a 23-year-old pickup truck. There I was, sitting in the women's bathroom at my tech office in downtown Austin. You know, one of those innovative workspace buildings with exposed brick and kombucha on tap, holding 31 printed photographs that proved my husband had been using our joint checking account as his personal cheat and travel rewards program. The envelope had arrived via certified mail that morning. Return address: Marshall Thornton, my father-in-law's cattle ranch 2 hours outside Austin. The note inside, written in his shaky handwriting on actual paper like some kind of analog prophet, said, "Daphne, darling, read this alone. Call me when you can. Don't know how to say this face-to-face. I'm sorry. I'm Daphne, 36, project manager at a software company where everyone pretends standing desks changed their lives. I've been married to Lawson for 9 years. 9 years of watching a perfectly decent boyfriend transform into a roommate who occasionally shared my bed and always shared my money. Lawson's a software engineer who works remote, which apparently means available for absolutely nothing except disappearing for hours into his home office and emerging only for meals I cook." The first photo was from Las Vegas, March 2023. The Bellagio fountains at night, Lawson's arm around a blonde woman in a red dress, both of them laughing like they'd invented happiness. Her name, I'd learn, was Paisley, because apparently we're naming adults after fabric patterns now. She worked at his company, the company he barely talked about because work is boring. The second photo, San Diego, June 2023. Them at La Jolla Cove, her head on his shoulder, looking at seals, wearing the Patagonia jacket I'd bought him for Christmas. Nothing says I love my wife like wearing her gifts to impress your mistress. The third photo, Cancun, July 2023. Beach resort, couples massage, him feeding her something tropical with an umbrella in it. Here's the thing about infidelity in the Instagram age. There's always a digital trail. And here's the thing about having a tech-savvy father-in-law who loves you more than his own son. That digital trail becomes Exhibit A through Z. I called Marshall directly from that bathroom stall, sitting on a closed toilet lid like I was hiding from a school shooter. Except the shooter was my marriage, and it had already hit its target. He answered on the first ring. "Daphne? Sugar." His East Texas drawl was thick with emotion. Marshall's one of those authentic cowboys, the kind who actually works cattle, not the kind who cosplays at Coachella. "I've been sick about this since July." "July?" My voice cracked. "You've known since July?" That Paisley girl posted a photo from Cancun, tagged the resort. I recognized the shirt Lawson was wearing, the pearl snap I gave him last Christmas. Burnt orange, Longhorns logo. I remember because I special ordered it. He paused. I heard him blow his nose. I confronted my boy that same day. Drove 2 hours to y'all's house. Asked him straight, "Are you stepping out on Daphne?" You know what he said? I couldn't speak. He said, "Dad, you don't understand modern marriage. Daphne's married to her job. We're basically just financial partners at this point. Like you were some kind of business arrangement that wasn't meeting his quarterly expectations." I laughed. Not a funny laugh. That kind of laugh that comes out when your brain can't process what it's hearing so it just makes sounds. He said that? Worse. I told him to do the right thing. Come clean. End it honorably. Get y'all into counseling or get divorced, but stop lying. Marshall's voice got harder. He said divorce was too expensive, that y'all just bought that house 2 years ago and he couldn't afford to split it. Said you made good money and he needed to be strategic about timing. Strategic. My husband was being strategic about when to blow up my life. That's when I hired someone, Marshall continued. Carlos Mendoza, private investigator out of San Antonio, former Texas Ranger. Cost me $38,000 over 4 months, paid in installments from my ranch account. Every penny worth it. $38,000? Surveillance ain't cheap when you're tracking someone across state lines, sugar. Carlos followed him to Vegas, San Diego, even sat 3 tables away in a New Orleans restaurant watching them have anniversary dinner. Their anniversary, not yours. His voice cracked. He documented everything. Timestamps, locations, credit card receipts from your joint account, photos from public places, All completely legal. I stared at the bathroom tile. Someone had scratched, "Janet was here 2019" into the grout. Janet had been there 4 years ago, probably having a normal day. Not finding out her husband was an aspiring bigamist on a budget. "There's more," Marshall said quietly. "Carlos tracked every charge on y'all's joint account. Your joint account, the one your salary mostly funds. Hotel rooms, flights, dinners, gift purchases. That boy spent over $15,000 of your money on his little adventure. I got timestamps, locations, credit card receipts for every transaction. $15,000, Daphne. While you were meal prepping his lunches and making sure the bills got paid." I stared at the photos again. 31 pictures of my husband's secret life. A life funded by my salary while I meal prepped our dinners and scheduled our oil changes and made sure we had dental insurance. "What do I do?" I whispered. "Well, sugar, that depends. Do you want revenge or do you want justice? What's the difference? Revenge is keying his truck. Justice is taking him for everything he's got legally and socially and making sure he knows his daddy helped you do it." Marshall paused. "Plus, I was thinking, Thanksgiving's in 2 weeks. I'm hosting the family barbecue like always. 50+ people. His mama will be there, his cousins, his Aunt Verna who's meaner than a snake and loves gossip more than Jesus. What if we gave them all something to really be thankful for?" And that's when I realized I'd married into the wrong generation of the Thornton family. "Marshall," I said slowly, "tell me your plan. First, you're going to call Rebecca Santos, best divorce attorney in Austin. I already talked to her. She's expecting your call. She loves cases like this, especially when there's evidence of financial infidelity. Second, you're going to act normal for exactly 2 weeks. Don't tip him off. Let him think everything's fine. Third, you're going to let me handle Thanksgiving dinner." I smiled for the first time in hours. It wasn't a nice smile. "Marshall, you beautiful vindictive cowboy. Let's give this family something to talk about. That's my girl," he said. "Now go wash your face, fix your makeup, and get back to that project manager job. We've got a war to plan." I hung up and looked at myself in the mirror. My mascara had run. My hair was a mess. I looked like someone who'd just discovered her entire marriage was a lie. Perfect. Lawson always said I was too emotional anyway. Time to show him what strategic really looked like. Rebecca Santos had an office in downtown Austin that screamed, "I win and I know it." Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lady Bird Lake, a receptionist who looked like she could kill you with her eyeliner, and a wall of legal victories framed like hunting trophies. I liked her immediately. "Marshall sent me your file," she said, sliding a folder across her mahogany desk. "The man's more thorough than most paralegals I've worked with. Former Texas Ranger as a PI, banking records going back 6 months, text message screenshots with timestamps." She smiled like a shark that just spotted a wounded seal. "Daphne, I'm going to enjoy this. How bad can we make it for him?" I asked. "In Texas? With evidence of financial infidelity? Meaning he used marital funds for an extramarital affair?" She leaned back in her leather chair. "We can make it biblical. Community property state, but judges don't like liars. Especially liars who drain joint accounts for vacations with their mistress while their wife works 60-hour weeks. I want the house. You'll get a significant portion. With his misconduct, we can push for 70% of the equity or force a sale where you take the majority share. I want Paisley's job." Rebecca raised an eyebrow. "Now you're speaking my language. They work at the same company? Same tech company. Different departments, but same company." I checked the employee handbook online. It's public on their website. They have a fraternization policy. Relationships between coworkers have to be disclosed to HR within 30 days. And I'm guessing Lawson and Paisley didn't disclose? Lawson's still logged into the company portal on our shared iPad. He never logs out of anything. I checked the HR disclosure database last night. Nothing filed under either of their names. Rebecca actually laughed. "Oh, Daphne, you're going to be fun. Here's what we do. We file for divorce the Monday after Thanksgiving. We'll file a discovery motion requesting the court to issue subpoenas for all communications between him and Paisley on company systems. If there's anything romantic or explicit on company email or Slack, that's a violation of company policy. Their legal department will panic and probably fire one or both of them to avoid liability. Which one typically gets fired? I asked. In my experience, the woman. But if we present evidence that this was ongoing and undisclosed, they'll probably fire both to be safe. Tech companies don't mess around with liability. She paused. Are you okay with that? Destroying her career? I thought about 31 photos, about $15,000 of my salary, about Lawson calling me useful for now. Rebecca, I'm not trying to destroy her career. I'm trying to let natural consequences do their job. If she wanted job security, she shouldn't have slept with a married coworker. That's the spirit. Now, about this Thanksgiving ambush. Marshall's planning. Is it legal? Publicly humiliating your cheating husband at a family barbecue? Perfectly legal. Deeply satisfying. Possibly therapeutic. She grinned. I love Marshall's style. But here's my advice. Record everything. Texas is a one-party consent state. If Marshall's going to do this big reveal, have your phone recording. Any admission Lawson makes can be used in divorce proceedings. What about the aftermath? What if he gets violent? Will he? I thought about Lawson, man who cried during insurance commercials, who once called me from the grocery store because he couldn't find the marinara sauce, who needed help opening jars. No, he'll probably cry and call his mother. Perfect. Crying cheaters make excellent witnesses to their own character. I left Rebecca's office with a legal strategy, a retainer agreement, and the distinct feeling that I'd just hired a hitman who operated within the bounds of Texas family law. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in performance art. I came home every evening to Lawson on the couch, laptop balanced on his stomach, working. I'd smile, ask about his day, and cook dinner like I was auditioning for some dystopian cooking show where the secret ingredient is rage. Tuesday, he complimented my pot roast. This is really good, Daff. You should make this more often. Sure, honey, I said, thinking about the Cancun resort where he'd fed Paisley shrimp cocktail on my dime. Anything for you? Wednesday, he mentioned he needed new running shoes. The ones I have are worn out. Of course, I replied, mentally calculating that his last 3 pairs of running shoes had been purchased during affair trips. Use the joint account. He did. $140 at a sporting goods store in downtown Austin. I saved the receipt. Rebecca had told me to document everything. Even the small stuff added up to pattern of financial abuse. Friday evening, his phone buzzed during dinner. He glanced at it, smiled slightly, then put it face down on the table. Work? I asked innocently. Just a colleague. Nothing important. Nothing important. That's what I'd become, apparently. Nothing important. Saturday morning, Marshall called while Lawson was in the shower. How you holding up, sugar? I'm performing like Meryl Streep in a movie nobody asked for. He chuckled. That's my girl. Listen, I've been working on the Thanksgiving setup. I've got a projector. One of those fancy ones that connects to phones. I'm going to put it up on the barn wall. We always do the blessing outside before we eat. Big family tradition. I'll say a few words then. Boom. Slideshow. Marshall, are you sure about this? It's going to traumatize your entire family. Daphne, my family's from East Texas. We invented dramatic confrontations at public events. Last year, my cousin Marlene announced her 3rd divorce during the prayer before Thanksgiving dinner. This is basically tradition with better production value. What about your ex-wife? Lawson's mother? Brenda? He snorted. Brenda once threw my clothes on the lawn during a Super Bowl party. She'll appreciate the theatrics. Plus, she never liked Paisley. Met her once at Lawson's company picnic and said she had wandering eye energy. Turns out Brenda was right. Does anyone else know? Just Rebecca, me, you, and Carlos the PI. I told the family we're doing a special presentation about gratitude and honesty. They think it's some kind of inspirational speech. Verna's already annoyed because she wanted to talk about her timeshare in Galveston. I laughed despite myself. This is insane. Darling, sometimes insane is exactly what integrity looks like. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Lawson asked if I'd made the sweet potato casserole yet. Not yet, I said. Why? Just want to make sure we bring something good to Dad's. You know how he gets about family contributions. Family contributions. The irony was so thick I could have spread it on toast. I'll make 2, I said sweetly. 1 with pecans, 1 without. Cover all the bases. He kissed my forehead. Actually kissed my forehead like he was some kind of devoted husband and not a financial parasite with commitment issues. This is why I married you, he said. You're so thoughtful. Thoughtful. Right. That's definitely why he married me. Nothing to do with my salary or my credit score or my willingness to handle every adult responsibility while he worked from home and needed space to think. That night, after he fell asleep, I lay awake thinking about 31 photos, $15,000, and a father-in-law who cared more about my dignity than his own son did. Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day, I woke up at 6, made 2 sweet potato casseroles, showered, did my makeup, put on my favorite dress, navy blue, fitted, the one that made me look like I had my life together. Lawson came downstairs at 8:30, yawning. You look nice. Special occasion? Just Thanksgiving, I said, handing him the casserole dishes. Family tradition. He smiled, completely oblivious, and loaded the casseroles into our car. As we drove toward Marshall's ranch, Lawson talked about his week, his projects, his thoughts on the new iPhone. I nodded and smiled and thought about how, in approximately 4 hours, his entire world was going to detonate. My phone buzzed. Text from Marshall. Projectors ready. 56 people confirmed. Rebecca's on standby for legal questions. Let's give him a show. I looked at Lawson, humming along to the radio, hand on my knee like we were some kind of functional couple. Hey, hun, I said. Yeah? I'm really grateful for your dad. He squeezed my knee. Me too. He's a good man. The best, I agreed. Better than you'll ever know. Marshall's ranch looked like every Texas postcard ever made. Sprawling oak trees, white fences stretching toward forever, and a red barn that had probably witnessed more family drama than a reality TV production company. 29 cars were already parked in the field-turned-parking lot when we arrived at noon, and more kept pulling in behind us. Lawson grabbed the sweet potato casseroles from the back seat, completely oblivious that he was carrying his own last meal. Big turnout this year, he said cheerfully. Dad really went all out. Your father's full of surprises, I replied. Marshall met us at the main house, a sprawling ranch-style home with a wraparound porch and rocking chairs that had probably been there since the Reagan administration. He was wearing his good boots, a pressed Western shirt, and a bolo tie with a turquoise stone. Funeral attire for a marriage. Lawson's son. He hugged his son stiffly. Daphne, darling. He hugged me like I was made of glass. Then he whispered in my ear, Barn, 5 minutes, alone. I nodded imperceptibly. Lawson immediately got absorbed by his cousins. 3 guys in their 30s arguing about fantasy football like it was Middle East peace negotiations. I slipped away toward the barn, casserole dishes deposited in the outdoor kitchen setup where Aunt Verna was already critiquing someone's green bean casserole. The barn was cooler inside, smelling like hay and old wood. Marshall was standing next to a professional-grade projector mounted on a rolling stand, his laptop open, checking connections. Rebecca sent over something this morning, he said without preamble. Carlos did one final sweep of public records and social media yesterday. Found screenshots from a mutual friend's Facebook of deleted posts. Plus those email screenshots you forwarded me from the shared iPad. Lawson still hasn't logged out of his personal Gmail. He pulled up a document on his laptop. You need to see this before we do the big reveal. I leaned over his shoulder. Email chain from September. Lawson to Paisley. Subject, next steps. Lawson, I've been thinking about the timeline. Daphne's performance review is in October, and she's a lock for promotion to senior PM. Announcement will be in January, with the salary bump effective February 1st. If I can hold out until March, that's 2 full pay cycles with her new salary documented on payroll records, I can file for divorce with better settlement calculations in my favor. Courts look at current income, not past income. My vision actually blurred for a second. Keep reading, Marshall said quietly. Paisley, That's 4 more months of lying to her. Lawson. It's 4 more months of strategic financial planning. I've already been at this for over a year. What's a few more months? Besides, she's so focused on work she barely notices me anyway. It's like living with a really efficient roommate who occasionally asks about my day. Paisley. What if she finds out? Lawson. She won't. Daphne's brilliant at her job, but she's terrible at reading people. It's why she's good at managing projects and bad at managing relationships. She trusts systems, not instincts. I looked at Marshall. His jaw was clenched so tight I thought he might crack a molar. There's more, he said. From October. Lawson. My dad's getting suspicious. Keeps asking pointed questions about our marriage. I told him we're fine, just busy with work. Classic boomer move. He thinks if you're not actively miserable, everything's perfect. He called me a boomer, Marshall muttered, after I raised him, paid for his college, taught him to drive. And yeah, I am a boomer, born in 1954, right in the middle of it. But the disrespect is what kills me. Despite everything, I almost laughed. Marshall was offended by the dismissive tone as much as the betrayal. What's the plan? I asked. The plan is we humiliate him in front of everyone who's ever told him he's special. His mama, his cousins, his Aunt Verna, who still gives him $50 every birthday like he's 12. Marshall closed the laptop. But I want to make sure you're ready. Once we do this, there's no taking it back. His whole family will know. Brenda will know. Everyone will know. Marshall, he was waiting for my promotion to maximize his divorce settlement. He called me terrible at reading people. He said I barely notice him. I straightened up. I've spent 9 years cooking his meals, managing our household, making sure he had clean clothes and health insurance and a functioning life. I noticed everything. I just didn't realize that being a good partner made me a target. You're not a target, Sugar. You're a survivor. He squeezed my shoulder. And after today, you're going to be a legend. Now, here's what's going to happen. We'll do the blessing at 2 o'clock. That's 30 minutes from now. Everyone gathers on the north side of the barn where I've got the projector set up in the shade so the afternoon sun won't wash out the images. I'll give my usual Thanksgiving speech about family and values. Then, I'll introduce a special presentation about honesty and gratitude. The photos will project on the barn wall. All 31 of them, plus these email screenshots. I've got them timed to advance every 15 seconds. 7 minutes and 45 seconds of undeniable evidence. What do? You stand next to me. When he looks at you, and he will, you smile. Not a big smile. Just that little smile you get when you've solved a problem nobody else could figure out. The smile that says, I'm 3 steps ahead and you never saw it coming. I can do that. I know you can. You've been doing it for 2 weeks. He paused. Rebecca's parked down the road. Soon as we're done here, she'll drive up. She's got divorce papers ready to serve. We're doing this in front of witnesses, making it official. In front of his entire family. In front of God, Texas, and everyone he's ever lied to. I looked at the projector, then back at Marshall. This man, this 69-year-old rancher who wore bolo ties unironically and drove a truck older than most marriages, had done more for me in 4 months than my husband had done in 9 years. Marshall, why are you doing this? He's your son. His eyes got watery. Because you're the daughter I should have had. Because my boy grew up to be the kind of man I raised him not to be. And that's partly on me. Because someone's got to teach him that actions have consequences, and apparently his daddy's the only one with enough spine to do it. He wiped his eyes roughly. Also, because Brenda's gonna lose her mind, and that woman deserves to see what her precious baby boy turned into. You really don't like your ex-wife, do you? I loved her for 20 years, hated her for 23, and now I'm just tired. But watching her face when she realizes her son's a snake, that'll perk me right up. We walked back toward the house together. The party was in full swing. Kids running around, adults laughing, someone's country playlist blaring from portable speakers. Lawson was holding a beer, talking to his cousin Derek about truck modifications. He saw me and waved. I waved back. Aunt Verna cornered me by the beverage table. Daphne, dear, you look thin. Are you eating? Oh, I'm eating, I said. I've got quite an appetite lately. Good, good. You career girls forget to take care of yourselves sometimes. Career girls. Like having a job was a hobby I'd picked up instead of the thing that paid for Lawson's lifestyle. 2 o'clock approached. Marshall rang the old dinner bell that hung from the porch. Everyone started migrating toward the barn, plates in hand, positioning themselves on hay bales and folding chairs Marshall had set up in a semicircle on the shaded north side. The projector was already on, showing the Thornton family crest that Marshall had made up in 2005 because he thought it looked official. By my count, 56 people had shown up. Couples, singles, teenagers, kids running around. The parking lot now had 32 cars total. Lawson sat in the front row, right next to his mother Brenda, a woman who looked like she'd been preserved in hairspray and disappointment. She'd worn her good church pearls. Aunt Verna was there with her husband, both of them clutching paper plates. Cousin Derek and his girlfriend found seats toward the back. This was about to be the best Thanksgiving they'd attended in 20 years, and they didn't even know it yet. Marshall stepped up to the front, microphone in hand. The crowd quieted. "Family," he began, his voice steady and clear. "Every year we gather here to give thanks, to recognize our blessings, to acknowledge the people who make our lives worth living." He paused. "But today I want to talk about something just as important as gratitude. I want to talk about honesty." Lawson shifted uncomfortably. I stood off to the side, phone recording in my pocket. One-party consent state, thank you Texas, and watched. "This year," Marshall continued, "I learned something about family, about truth, about what happens when we choose comfort over character." His eyes landed on Lawson. "Son, this is going to hurt, but sometimes love looks like consequences." He clicked the remote. The first photo appeared on the barn wall, 20 feet high. Lawson and Paisley in Las Vegas, kissing in front of the Bellagio fountains. Brenda gasped. Literally gasped like a Victorian lady seeing an ankle. And I smiled. The thing about public humiliation is that it happens in slow motion and real time simultaneously. Photo 2. San Diego. Lawson and Paisley at La Jolla Cove, his arm around her waist, both wearing matching sunglasses. The kind of coordinated couple aesthetic that screams, "We're so in love we forgot other people exist." Cousin Derek stood up. "Wait, is that—" Photo 3. Cancun. Beach resort. Couples massage. Paisley's hand on Lawson's chest. Brenda made a sound like a wounded animal trying to maintain dignity at a church social. Lawson Michael Thornton. Middle name deployed. Never a good sign. Lawson had gone pale, then red, then a fascinating shade of gray-green that I'd only previously seen on spoiled meat. He stood up, turned toward Marshall. "Dad, what are you—" "This isn't—" "Sit down, son." Marshall's voice could have cut steel. "You'll have your turn to talk. Right now, 55 other people deserve to see what you've been doing with your wife's money." Photo 4. Dallas, expensive steakhouse, candlelit dinner. Photo 5. Houston, art museum. Her leaning against him, laughing. Photo 6. New Orleans, French Quarter. Kissing under a street lamp like they were auditioning for a tourism commercial. Aunt Verna stood up, pearl clutching happening in real time. "That's the girl from his company picnic, the one who brought store-bought potato salad. Brenda told me all about her, said she had wandering eyes even then. Of all the sins to remember. Store-bought potato salad and wandering eyes." The photos kept advancing. 15 seconds each. 7 minutes 45 seconds total, Marshall had said. We were maybe 90 seconds in, and Lawson looked like he wanted the earth to open up and swallow him. Unfortunately for him, Texas soil is mostly clay and limestone. Takes more than shame to crack it open. Photo 7. Las Vegas again. Casino floor. Paisley sitting on his lap at a poker table. Brenda was crying now. Not sad crying. Angry crying. The kind of crying that happens when your precious baby boy turns out to be exactly the kind of man you divorced his father for not being. "You told me you were at a conference. I called the hotel. You were registered." "I was at a conference," Lawson stammered. These are out of context." Photo 8. Receipt. Las Vegas Hotel. 2-bedroom suite. $2,100. Charged to our joint account. Date stamp, March 15th. Marshall had really thought this through. Photos of the affair, then financial evidence. Like a prosecutor building a case, except the jury was Aunt Verna, and she was already planning her phone tree gossip strategy. Out of context? Marshall's voice boomed. Son, that's our family credit card, the one Daphne's salary pays off every month. Photo 9, receipt, San Diego, couples spa package, $800. Photo 10, receipt, Cancun, all-inclusive resort, 4 nights, $3,200. Photo 11, receipt, Dallas, Morton's Steakhouse, $950. Photo 12, receipt, Houston, hotel and dinner, $1,400. Photo 13, receipt, New Orleans, weekend getaway, $2,100. The crowd was murmuring now. I caught fragments. Using her money. 9 years married. Over $15,000. Poor Daphne. Always seemed like such a nice boy. Photo 14, screenshot of text messages. September. Lawson to Paisley. If I can hold out until March, that's 2 full pay cycles with her new salary documented. I can file for divorce with better settlement calculations in my favor. The murmuring stopped. Dead silence. Even the kids playing in the field went quiet, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Cousin Derek, bless his heart, said it. Did he say he was waiting for her promotion to divorce her for more money? Photo 15. Another text. She's so focused on work she barely notices me anyway. It's like living with a really efficient roommate. Brenda was standing now, pointing at Lawson like he was a defendant and she was the prosecution. You called your wife a roommate? The woman who makes your dentist appointments because you can't be bothered to call? Who meal preps your lunches every Sunday? Who reminded you to call me on my birthday last month because you forgot? Mom, I can explain. Explain what? That you're a liar? A cheat? A financial parasite? She looked at me. Mascara running. Pearls clutched. Daphne, honey, I am so sorry. I raised him better than this. I swear I raised him better than this. The photos kept advancing. 16, 17, 18. Different locations, same story. Hotels, restaurants, beaches, shopping receipts, jewelry purchases. Each one a little monument to my husband's creativity in betrayal. Photo 19, email. October. Lawson to Paisley. My dad's getting suspicious. Keeps asking pointed questions. Classic boomer move. He thinks if you're not actively miserable, everything's perfect. Marshall shook his head slowly. Son, I am a boomer. Born 1954. Dead center of the generation. But you never did show much respect for the people who raised you. The slideshow continued its relentless march. 22 photos. 27. 30. Each one a nail in the coffin of Lawson's reputation. The final photo, number 31, was Lawson and Paisley in Las Vegas, her hand showing off a ring. Not a wedding ring, but a promise ring, like they were teenagers. You bought her a ring. My voice surprised me. I hadn't planned to speak. But there it was, carrying across the crowd. With our money, you bought your mistress a promise ring. Lawson turned to me, tears streaming. Daphne, please, I can explain. Explain how you spent $15,000 of our joint account on your affair? Explain how you were planning to wait for my promotion to maximize your divorce settlement? Explain which part, exactly? He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. For a man who always had excuses, he'd finally run out. That's when Rebecca's SUV pulled up. Gravel crunching. Perfect timing, like she'd been watching from the road with binoculars and a stopwatch. She stepped out wearing a power suit that cost more than Lawson's Cancun trip, heels that could double as weapons, and a leather folder that screamed, legal consequences. She walked through the crowd like Moses parting the Red Sea, stopped directly in front of Lawson, and held out the folder. Lawson Michael Thornton, you've been served. Divorce proceedings, petition for dissolution of marriage, temporary injunction freezing all joint financial accounts, and a subpoena request for your employer regarding undisclosed workplace relationships in violation of company policy. She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Happy Thanksgiving. Lawson took the papers with shaking hands. Brenda grabbed them from him, read the first page, and actually laughed. She's getting 70% of the house equity. You have to buy her out or she forces a sale at market value. She looked at him. You absolute fool. Aunt Verna stood up, grabbing her purse. Well, I've seen enough. Daphne, honey, you come by Tuesday. I'm making you my bourbon pecan pie and we're going to talk about what you deserve. Which is everything. She pointed at Lawson. You're off the Christmas card list. Dead to me. Worse than dead, forgotten. That's when the exodus started. The Thornton family, 56 strong, began filing past Lawson. Some stopped to hug me. Some stopped to glare at him. Cousin Derek actually took back the beer he'd handed Lawson earlier. Can't waste good beer on bad character. Marshall stood beside me as the crowd dispersed, his hand on my shoulder. You okay, sugar? Marshall, I'm better than okay. I watched Lawson sitting alone on a hay bale, divorce papers in his lap, his mother's car already pulling away. I'm free. My phone buzzed. Text from Rebecca. I'll contact their HR department first thing Monday morning with copies of the evidence and company policy violations. Based on their fraternization disclosure requirements, both of them are looking at immediate investigation and probable termination. I'll keep you updated. I showed Marshall. He smiled. Consequences. It's what's for dinner. Better than my sweet potato casserole? Darling, nothing's better than your sweet potato casserole. But this? He gestured to Lawson's crumbling world. This is pretty close. Lawson finally stood up, walked over to us. His eyes were red. Daphne, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. I kept my voice level. You spent a year saying plenty to Paisley. You're done talking to me. I never meant to hurt you. No, you just meant to use me. There's a difference. I picked up my purse. Marshall, can you drive me home? I don't think I want to ride with my soon-to-be ex-husband. Be honored, darling. He offered his arm like a gentleman from another era. As we walked toward his F-150, Lawson called out, Where am I supposed to go? Marshall turned back. Son, you're a software engineer who makes 6 figures. Figure it out. You've been real good at figuring out how to spend everybody else's money. Time to figure out your own. We left him there, standing in front of the barn, divorce papers in hand, his entire family gone, his mistress about to lose her job, his carefully constructed lies burned down to ash. I looked at Marshall. Thank you. Thank me? Sugar, you did all the hard work. I just provided the projector. Best projector I've ever seen. Technology, he said sagely. Sometimes it's useful. 6 months later, I'm sitting on Marshall's porch at the ranch, fishing pole in one hand, coffee in the other, watching the sun come up over East Texas like it's apologizing for my marriage. Turns out, losing a husband and gaining a father-in-law is actually a pretty good trade. Better ROI than my 401k, honestly. The divorce finalized in April, exactly 5 months after we filed that Monday after Thanksgiving. Texas requires a 60-day waiting period, then another 3 months of back-and-forth negotiations. Rebecca made sure it cost him significantly more than he'd calculated. The house sold in March. The court awarded me 70% of the equity based on his financial misconduct. After the mortgage payoff, my share came to $173,000. Lawson got his 30%, $74,000, had to cover his own legal fees, and learned that strategic timing works both ways. Lawson got fired in mid-January, right after the company returned from holiday break. The HR investigation took 6 weeks, but the outcome was inevitable. Turns out, when your company discovers you've been having an undisclosed relationship with a colleague, violating ethics policies, and using company resources for personal communication about said affair, they don't love that. Paisley got terminated the same day. Last I heard through the Austin Tech Gossip Network, she's working customer service at a call center in Round Rock. He's doing contract coding work from his studio apartment in North Austin, the kind of apartment with carpet from the 90s and neighbors who play bass at 2 in the morning. Between his legal fees, the reality of only getting 30% of the house equity instead of the 50+ he'd planned, and rebuilding after termination, his strategic financial planning didn't work out quite how he'd calculated. The promotion came through in January. Senior Project Manager. $17,000 salary increase. A solid 15% bump. I celebrated by buying myself a new car. Paid cash, because that settlement money was burning a hole in my account. And I wanted something that didn't have memories of driving to marriage counseling sessions that never happened. Marshall and I fish every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. sharp. He brings kolaches from the Czech bakery in West Texas. I bring stories from my week. He teaches me about cattle management. I teach him about software development. It's the weirdest mentorship situation either of us has ever had, and it works perfectly. Brenda, surprisingly, became an ally. She calls once a week to check on me. Last month, she sent me her grandmother's recipe for bourbon pecan pie. The one Aunt Verna had promised but never delivered because, quote, that recipe's family only. Brenda's note said, "You're more family than my son ever deserved." Aunt Verna's still mad she didn't get to be the hero of this story. The Thornton family adopted me officially at Easter. Marshall hosted again. Smaller gathering this time, only 30 people because apparently word got around about Thanksgiving, and some folks wanted to avoid drama. Lawson wasn't invited. I was seated at the head table next to Marshall. Cousin Derek brought his new girlfriend and introduced me as the legend who took down Lawson with PowerPoint and property law. I've been asked to speak at 3 different women's networking events about recognizing financial red flags in relationships. Apparently, publicly destroying your cheating husband at Thanksgiving dinner makes you an inspirational speaker. Who knew? I bought a condo in the Rainy Street district with a view of Lady Bird Lake, 10 minutes walk to Rebecca's office on Congress Avenue. 2 bedrooms, one's my office, decorated exactly how I want without anyone complaining that my project management books make the room look cluttered. The other's a guest room. Marshall stays there sometimes when he comes to Austin for doctor appointments. We get barbecue and argue about whether Austin or East Texas has better brisket. I ran into Lawson once in May at a Whole Foods on Lamar. He was in line at the hot food bar looking tired. I was buying celebratory champagne because I'd just closed a major project ahead of schedule. He saw me, opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then just looked away. I didn't say anything either. What's there to say to someone who taught you that being underestimated is sometimes a strategic advantage? Last week, Marshall asked if I was dating. I told him I was too busy enjoying my own company. He laughed and said, "That's good. You spent 9 years accommodating a man who didn't deserve accommodation. Take your time. The right one will show up when you're not looking, and he'll know better than to mess with a woman who has a vengeful cowboy in her corner." Here's what I learned. Marriage isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who doesn't require you to disappear. And family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's a 69-year-old rancher who drives a truck older than your dead marriage and loves you enough to burn down his son's reputation with a projector and 31 receipts. The best revenge isn't living well. It's living authentically while your ex-husband learns that strategic timing works both ways. Also, never underestimate what a project manager can accomplish when she applies her organizational skills to dismantling a liar's life. We're excellent at documentation, timeline management, and delivering results under pressure. Marshall just called from inside the house. The coffee's ready, and he wants to show me the new calf that was born yesterday. He's thinking of naming her Karma. I think that's perfect. Turns out, sometimes the family you need isn't the one you married into. It's the one that stayed when the marriage didn't. And sometimes, the best thing a man can give you isn't a ring. It's a projector, a plan, and the courage to demand better.